I've read over 60 horror books this year, and this is the most disturbing one. It came down to three things. Hi, I'm Olivia. This is the AV Club where I talk about horror, lit fic, weird books, whatever I want to talk about. And today I am talking about On Submission by Michael J. Seidlinger. This author is one I was already familiar with. I read and loved Anybody Home a few years ago, which is kind of like a found footage home invasion story. Loved it. Also disturbing. This one I actually read on my Kobo. I already returned it to the library, so not Moan, but On Submission. On Submission is a super fast paced horror book with chapters alternating between telling the story of a literary agent who is a little bit skeezy and a wannabe author who has just been turned down by this agent. And it turns out that turning him down was a big mistake because this writer is going crazy. But I read a lot of gory, violent horror books, so what makes this one actually disturbing? Well, the first thing is that it has elements of POV horror. When we are following the literary agent, it's being told in third person, but whenever we are wrecking carnage through the literary world that this agent's author's bodies are piling up, well, those are told from first person from the scorned writer. I think that the reason why this makes it so disturbing is because you actually gain a lot of empathy for this author as he's doing the most horrible things. I mean, the gore in this is like another level too. The things that are being done are veering on extreme horror. I think it would be fair to call it extreme horror how some of the passages are written. And so that's not to be scoffed at either. But whenever you're being made to be empathetic with the person that is doing it, that's disturbing. And it really involves the reader as being also a little bit culpable for the horrible things that are going on because it's being told in first person and it feels like you are behind the eyes, like the same way that it would work in something like Halloween being behind Michael Myers' mask. And this is only the second book that I've read by this author, but there's also POV horror in Anybody Home. And so I think that he is just really good at it. But the way that it alternated between the first person and third person chapters made this go by so fast. Like, I was addicted to reading this. It was one of my fastest reads of the year. Another thing that makes it disturbing is that the victims really do not deserve it. That there may be people who are deserving of punishment in the story, but it is not the authors for the most part. The first author who gets taken down is almost like a Stephen King stand-in, at least in the level of stature that he is expected to have in the horror world, that he is like such an instant bestseller. You just can't help but to think of Stephen King with how many books he's published and the type of like multi-million dollar book deals that he's getting. And he is like the literary agent's pride and joy, which makes this scorned author very upset. But maybe he did deserve some level of this violence because there's also some allegations against him from some students at a university, that he was taking advantage of his position of power. But some of the other authors who are left in this wake of violence are people who are otherwise like kind and normal, or people who terrible things have already happened to them, that they've already been victims of other violence elsewhere in their life. And like that is so disturbing whenever it's like they do not get any reprieve and it's just feels inevitable to them. And I think the third thing that makes it disturbing is that it is an author writing about an insane author, like that it feels almost closer to the truth or closer to something that you would want to manifest. I do not believe that this author wants to manifest this. I think that maybe many authors have frustrations in the publishing industry, frustrations with agents, frustration with the publishers themselves, frustrations with readers, reviewers, that kind of thing. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's like if a horror movie director directed a movie that was about like, I'm an evil movie director and this is an evil movie, and it just makes it feel like it's like a manifesto or like a document of guilt. And I think that's one reason why books feel more disturbing to me than movies can, because books feel like they can be from like a singular author, whereas whenever you think of a movie, like so many people have to come together to make that happen. Like you have the director, you have the writers, the actors, actors, the people lighting the scene. There's just so many more people on set. But whenever it's an author writing it from a writer's point of view, it just feels like, oh my gosh, like you are making me sit down and listen to, like, are these your insane thoughts? I don't think they are. It's very entertaining though. So yeah, overall, I just loved this book. Like, it was really one of my most fun horror books of the year, but also one of my most disturbing. I read all kinds of horror, but extreme horror and stuff that is meant to be super disturbing isn't something that I specifically seek out nor shy away from. So it's always a fun surprise whenever something is especially disturbing, especially this book, which I have not seen reviewed at all yet, but I think that people would get a kick out of it. It's fun. It's a wild ride. Definitely, if you liked Anybody Home, I think this one was a little bit more popular. Check out On Submission. I think you'll like it. And I would love to know, what was your most disturbing book this year? Tell me in the comments, and maybe I'll read that one next. But until next time, I'll talk to you later. Bye.